All right, welcome back to the rest of the story. Well, we are getting what Grandpa used to call a $1 million rain. And the reason he used to call it that is because the thing behind me, that thing, is done being drug across the field. We got done at a little past midnight this morning, and as of now, we're getting a nice gentle soaker. Just a nice steady rain shower pretty much the whole day. They're calling for rain for the next couple days, I guess, topped off by one of these nights down to, I think, 28 degrees. So that's not really, I don't think anybody's really excited about that, especially going from 70-degree days back down to 30-degree days. But hopefully the crop will survive. The growing points through the corn and beans are still under the ground, so if we do get the frost potentially, the crop should for the most part be okay. Alfalfa, well, a little bit of alfalfa we have left, that might get knocked down onto the ground. Grass, that'll bite the grass back a little bit. A lot of the hay that I got, all of the hay that I have is grass. It got bit, I think, the 3rd week of April, and it's really just now starting to come out of it. That heat and moisture we had here the last week or so really got it growing again. Everything is greening up, but the rain, believe it or not, for the amount of rain we've had for the last 2 years and pretty well being sick of rain, I think everyone was actually starting to get to the point where everybody was, we could actually use a nice rain shower, and we finally got it. So now we get to go through and put everything away, clean everything up, and not so much forget about it, because there's some things I want to work on, tweak on the corn planter. I planted the majority of the crops this year. Ryan planted for about a day and a half, but otherwise I pretty much planted everything. And the closing wheels on this planter I think work great. I have my opinions about them. I don't know if I really want to discuss them right now because I gotta go through and clean the planter up as it is. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. As far as the corn seed, the monitor, the row shutoffs is huge. Running RTK and being able to control where the seed is going across the field is pretty nice. This is kind of annoying because I just found this out. You see this? That right there is approximately the amount of seed that I needed last night in that to finish planting. But because this, we just got rid of all the other bags, in the back of the truck was buried by empty seed bags. So I didn't see it. So I ended up opening a brand new bag of 9808 or 9804 to finish the field, which it happens. Like I was going through and I was trying to spread out the seed as best I could, and it literally got down to where the seed in the finger meters was all I had left in the planter, and it just wouldn't do it. And with 1 acre left, I think that was pretty much the salt in the wound. Salt on the wound is just, I had to open up another bag of seed corn just to finish up, because you're not going to leave 1.5 acres of empty ground. It just isn't going to happen. So for the most part, you got to pull the seed boxes off, empty them out, wash the whole machine down, and actually empty out the airbags, because you got to take the pressure off the airbags, which they got quite a bit of pressure in them right now. Go through a lot of the chains. I didn't replace any of the chains through here, just the chains, right here, this spring. And actually I'm thinking the chains back here are actually gonna have to get replaced before next year, just because they are starting to show some wear and tear. I don't do the diesel and the 5-gallon pail or anything else like that, largely because I'd probably forget about it. And as far as going through and redoing the chains in this planter, the chains that we replaced on all 12 rows this year was $60. Brand new chain. That was the connectors, that was the chain. And we had chain left over because I had to cut off a bunch of the, like, four links per chain to make them fit. And you can't beat that. Brand new chain. I'll be doing the same thing right here. I got like 6 or 7 random ones I got to do. So the planter ran pretty faithful. And it looks like I'm probably going to be running the planter more consistently from now on. Dad and Ryan are probably going to be pretty much running the 82 working ground ahead of the planter from here on out. My dad took over planting when he was 19 years old from my grandpa. Dad said that other than the rare times after that, Grandpa planted corn the first year my dad worked for him, and then I guess after that, it was pretty much just my dad. Otherwise, the very rare occasion where Grandpa would run it if my dad wasn't able to. That was also a 4-row with dry fertilizer with the liquid, and 12 rows filling the seed boxes up. It does take a little bit longer to fill it and get it ready to go again, but for the most part, it's really not that bad. Grandpa, he actually preferred running the disc and the 42 because at the time he had a 215 John Deere 16-foot that he pulled with his 4230, his go-to chore tractor. Which is, my grandpa's 4230 to him was my 7600 to me. So for those of you that are familiar with the channel, you know dang well right about how much my grandpa really liked his 4230. The thing had easily over 30,000 hours on it. Same thing with the 4020. The 4020 easily has over 30,000 hours at least. Probably closer to 40 to be honest with you. It needs some TLC, but what doesn't? The 4020 was actually my grandpa's big tractor at one point in time, and then I believe he bought that 4230 with 200 hours on it, 300 hours on it. I can't remember. I think it was 2 years old with 200 hours on it. Need to ask Dad again. But that was my grandpa's go-to tractor, and it was a chore tractor. It did a lot of the hauling silage and stuff like that, especially when I was growing up. That's what I would use it for. I preferred the 2955 over the 4230, but that's just me. But Grandpa, back when they were milking cows yet, that was his tractor for cleaning the barn out with that same manure spreader. And usually when you're seeding oats in the spring, you're typically the cows are still in the barn. So what Grandpa would do, especially if we were seeding oats on one of the satellite farms, which are the further away farms, for those of you that do not know what I mean when I say satellite farms, he would actually haul manure, take the barn manure out in the morning, unhook the spreader, drive the 9 or 10 or 13 miles to the upper farm, disc all day, unhook the disc up there, drive home for chores with the tractor so he had it for chores the next morning. And that's just what he would do because he liked that tractor so much. My grandpa was pretty much set in his ways when it came to every tractor has its job. The 4640 is the planter tractor, the 82 is on the VT, the 76 is wherever I decide it wants to go, the 4020 is on the cultivator. Grandpa was the same way. His 4230, it was the designated spreader tractor. If you're hauling manure and Grandpa is helping you, that 4230 will be on the spreader, even if you have to unhook the spreader from a different tractor. I mean, you think I'm joking, but I'm not. I didn't really like using it I was forced unwillingly to use the 4230 for pulling that 735 Mocha for cutting hay one night because the 7400 went down, and literally that 4230, I went from probably 8 miles an hour with the 7400 to maybe first gear with the 4230, but Grandpa had so much confidence in that tractor that it would get it done. Falling into my grandparents saying quite a bit, which I never agreed with. My grandparents said it a lot, "Oh, we'll get by." My grandma said that all the time, "We'll get by, we'll get by." Well, I understand you'll get by, but you also, time is money, and I was a pushy teenager, and generally it's when it comes to doing field work and tillage, and I was usually just let me work, I'll be fine, leave me alone. And Grandma and Grandpa, especially at their age, at their point in their lives, it was, we'll get to it when we get to it, we'll get by. Maybe I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's how they felt. So Grandpa, even if the 4230 really couldn't handle some of the jobs he gave it, he got by. I mean, it might took him a while, but he did all right. So Yeah. That was a long time ago. You don't realize how old you start getting until your kid is actually starting to stand on her own. Yeah. Brittany actually had Relina standing the other night. I don't think anybody was really prepared to see that Relina can stand already. So that actually bugs me. That really pisses me off just a little bit, because my grandparents, they weren't able to go to my wedding, which, they had a pretty good excuse. Another thing that bugs me too is that I know they would have liked to see their great grandkids. It bugs me that my kids will never get to see my grandparents, and I wish they really could have. It would have been nice if they could have just been around. I mean, Grandpa wasn't the most, what's the best word to say, ornery old farmer. As far as showing their emotions or saying you did a good job, I can count on one hand the amount of times that my grandpa's actually said, you did a good job, or you're a good boy. He actually said that randomly. He caught me off guard one night. I was getting ready to come home, and what they typically do every night when they get done milking, I was out of college, I was here full time, I was actively helping on the farm, and Grandma and Grandpa were in the milk house and they were heading over to the house. I was up here in the yard working on the disc bind. I don't know, I was doing something up here. And I was walking around the tractor, and Grandpa and Grandma were walking across over to the house, about halfway over, and I saw him out of the corner of my eye. He was walking, he stopped, he looked up at me, and he says, "You're a good boy." Just completely caught me off guard, because Grandpa, for those of you that actually, none of you know my grandpa, but for the people that actually knew my grandpa, he doesn't show affection. He doesn't show affection. He told me he loved me once, and that was enough. And those old timers, like, people don't really understand. Maybe people forget is that those old timers, they grew up in a different era. They didn't grow up with cell phones. They didn't grow up with technology. And at that point in their lives, they sure as hell didn't want to learn about it. So my grandma, it sucks. I wish you could have seen my kids. It pisses me off because certain people held it against my grandpa. I mean, he had other great grandkids, and he never hardly got to see them. I mean, and the fact that it's not that he didn't want to, it's just that they weren't brought around. You can argue that they should have went and seen them. Yes and no, because at that point in their lives, my grandparents were pretty well set in their ways, and let's just face it, you're not going to get an 80-year-old elderly person to change their daily routine, and we're gonna go up and see these guys for the day. I mean, holidays, and that was it. And that's just how I understood it and how it was growing up. If you want to see Grandma and Grandpa, you go to their house, you go to the farm, because there's always something to do on the farm. They milked twice a day. They had chickens, they had cattle, they had calves. We had crops. We were always making hay throughout the summer. In the winter, it was usually a daily grind. And I don't know. I guess it just really bugs me that I've said it before. I'll probably say it again as long as this channel's up, however long we keep this going. But it really bothered the hell out of me that my grandparents didn't get to go to my wedding. I mean, at least they got to meet Brittany. Grandpa actually gave me praise about Britt because he said that he liked her. He said I had a good one. He said that he's met the other ones before Britt, which it's not like it was a lot, but just the other girls that I'd brought around before Britt, and Britt is the first one that he actually gave me praise for, that she's a hard worker. She wants to be on the farm. She's able to help, and she's not lazy. And you really don't get praise like that very often from people from that generation. Maybe I just didn't. Maybe my family just didn't. But it's a generation where they showed you their affection and actions rather than words. So I don't know. So I really kind of trailed off there, but planning is done. Grandpa'd be happy. and I don't know what Grandma would say, but it is what it is. So you guys are watching the rest of the story. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I know it's really irritating hearing us say that. It helps me out. If you haven't subscribed but you like the content, make sure you subscribe. If you want to make sure you get the updates when I do post my videos, because I've been kind of sporadic here lately, make sure you hit the little bell underneath so at least let you know when I upload videos. It's always at 6 o'clock at night on the days that I post. Generally it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I dropped back to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know what I'm going to be posting from here on out. If it's going to be the original Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, or if I'll drop back to just 4 a week. We'll have to wait and see.